What we think, what we say, what we write, our language influences four main aspects of our experience of ourselves: our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our physiology, and how we breathe.
Are you helping yourself or holding yourself back? No matter the goal, people often know the steps they need to take, but then they don't stick with it. People talk themselves out of success every day. This is self-sabotage. The stories we tell ourselves drive our behaviors. Change the story, end the sabotage. There is a better way. Welcome to the most exciting adventure of your life. Welcome to a new way of living. Welcome to the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast.
Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Andy. And we're on a mission to inspire and guide 1 million people to live a life of purpose, passion, and self-mastery, leveraging the 5 mountains of cutting-edge human development to build extreme mental fitness.
Our guest today is Mark England, founder of Procabulary and the Enlifted Coaching program. Mark is helping people change their stories, end their self-sabotage, and create the internal conditions that allow them to thrive. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for having me once again.
So excited to have you here. Yeah, absolutely. We'd like to start off right now by asking, what are you most excited about in your life right now?
What am I most excited about right now? We're launching our own podcast. And I'm not the host. That's really exciting. I'm absolutely serious. We've got 3 of our, and they're all great coaches, and three of our great coaches that have had podcast experience before, either have their own show or have had their own show. And yeah, we're starting that. We start interviewing people. John Wolf from On It is the first person we're interviewing
Nice.
in a few weeks, and we start putting out episodes in January. I'm most excited about. Thank you for asking that, because I had to stop and think. It's general. It's not something specific. I'm most excited about watching other people come into this process, this business, and do what they're great at doing, do what they want to do. And then I'm stepping back a little bit. It's very fun. It's very fun and a little bit spooky, truth be told, because we've been, for 7 years, I was a one-man show. And then for the past 6.5, it's been a 2-man show. I mean, those are pretty light numbers. And so, we hired our first full-time employee. Shout out to Kimberly Kesting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And there's an app thing. It's not a thing. It's an app. We have a crack team that's been doing it for 2 years. We just put it in the beta, and it's in beta in the app store, so people can get on there and play around. Those guys work their asses off to make that happen. So yeah, that's just watching this thing go. It's going.
Sweet. Is the app, what's the title of the app? Enlifted?
The Enlifted app.
Wonderful. So last time you were on our podcast in our first season, we talked about Procabulary and how the words we use speaking to ourselves has a tremendous impact on how we view ourselves and how we show up in the world. And now you've developed a program called Enlifted. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's a natural progression of the business, and an unforeseen one as well. So, we were talking procedures and things before we got on the podcast, and my last one, since we're showing scars and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had a Tommy John. So I went to a jiu-jitsu class in early 2018. Yep. And had my arm ripped out of socket.
Oh,
Because my jujitsu's old. I'm a time capsule. We went to the 10th planet. These guys are like, they're really cool. They smoke a lot of weed, and at least their founder does, and then figure out how to twist people in the absolute wrong directions in very progressive. They're the stoner geniuses of jujitsu. Everybody would agree with that. And I go in there and I don't know what's happening. I think I do. And all of a sudden, snap, crackle, pop. Anyway, so I fly over to Thailand. My business partner's living over there, and I had the procedure done over there. And while it was an unscheduled work trip because it happened quite quickly. And I'm over there. I'm like, you know what, man? I've been hanging out a lot with Mike Bledsoe from Barbell Strong.
mm-hmm.
We've done a couple of workshops, and people really like it. It's a combination of breathing and movement and language. Let's do something. Let's do a course for the fitness industry. Yeah. So we call Bledsoe, and he's like, sure. So we do it, and it's about a 4-month process, and then we're like, okay, how are we gonna? We did the exact opposite. We built the thing. It's Field of Dreams. We built it, and then we're like, all right, how are we going to sell this thing? Just made a passion project, right?
Yeah.
And so Enlifted was a thing when I was on your show last year. It is now officially superseded Procabulary, and we're going to bench Procabulary. It's going to be all Enlifted. We're using the same language tech. It's a cooler brand. Procabulary. That's a mouthful. Every third person calls it Procabulary. So we're like, oh, fine. And so anyway, we launched this thing. We launched the course at Paleo Effects in 2019, and it turns into the certifications. And we're graduating our 200th level 1 coach on Sunday.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That's a good milestone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The 15 years in the game, and you're an overnight success.
Yeah. Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that. So how does the coaching program work? We throw words out all the time, not really. Well, some of us don't really think about what words we're using. Do they really hold that much power over us? How does this coaching work?
First things first, it's a good question. We can go in, refresh my memory. Did we go into the pillars of conflict language in our first podcast? Pillars of conflict language, also known as victim mentality language.
Yeah. We definitely talked about that, but I think it would serve us to have a good refresher.
Okay, well, I can do the refresher quick, and then we'll talk about arguably the cornerstone, the capstone of the Enlifted method, how we go about helping people separate themselves in a good, healthy, easy way from the stories that they've held on to for God knows how long.
When I think about energy and vitality, I think about a kid. They have the energy to play, run around, climb things. That energy that feels like you just can't contain yourself. It's the stuff we've always wished they could just bottle up and sell to us, right? Well, this company's found a way to do just that. Amari's Happy Juice Pack. Mood, motivation, energy, things our bodies can naturally produce when both our guts and our brains are happy and communicating. And we can actually improve that process of communication across the axis of the gut and the brain. This is cutting-edge science. This is game-changing information. This is where science meets soul. This is Amari, and we're helping people feel better naturally. Boost your serotonin and GABA. Balance your neurotransmitters. Nourish your gut. The things that make you want to do. Start feeling better the natural way. Check out the links in the show notes for discounts and more information.
So as far as the language is concerned, there are 3 main pillars to something we call conflict language. Okay. Conflict language is, and this is having me done this. I've done this for, like I said, 15 years, somewhere between full-time and overtime the whole time. There are absolute language patterns when people describe and tell the stories of ouch and woe and pain and stuck. 85% of the language involved in those stories, and they are stories, comes down to 3 things. Okay. You have negations, soft talk, and projections. Okay. Negations, super easy. The keywords: can't, won't, isn't, hasn't, haven't, not, shouldn't. Those words, once they find their way into sentences, they force me to stare at the worst case scenario, whether I want to or not. First thing my driving teacher said when I got in the car: look where you want to go, because you're probably going to go there. So when I say, Casey, I don't want to argue with you so much anymore. Because it's not just me, it's both of us. What did we both just make a picture of us doing? Arguing.
Yep.
Or Andrew, Andrew's giving me some advice, some lifestyle advice. I'm like, Andrew, I can't spend all my money this month. I can't keep doing that. What did I just, the pictures add up, folks. Here's a quick story about negations. I was coaching a young man. I've told this a lot. I might've told it when we did the show last year. If I did, forgive me. I'll make it quick. I was up in Calgary and this is 2014, doing a workshop for some sales, for a sales team. I stayed after and did one-on-one sessions, and I was working with a young man, 23, 24. We're in the same room, 2 chairs facing each other, 6 feet apart. So, I mean, he's just, I'm staring at him, and this is what he said. This is what he did. Mark, I can't keep focusing on my past.
Oh, and there it is.
And there it is. Exactly. He turned around, looked behind him, looked back at me. He did it about 3 times as fast. So for y'all listen to the audio, I just looked around behind me and looked back at the camera. And he didn't even know he did it. I said, you just turned around and looked behind you, right? And he goes, what? And I said, yeah. What did you see? And he had to stop and think about it. He said, I saw myself on the couch and all alone. And I asked him how he was feeling: angry and a little scared. And then where was he breathing? I didn't ask him that. I already knew, because he was breath trapped in the chest. So write these things down, folks. Your language, we're going over. I'm going to give you the best stuff we got in an hour. Our language, when I say language, I mean internal dialogue, external dialogue. What we think, what we say, what we write. Our language influences 4 main aspects of our experience of ourselves: our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our physiology, and how we breathe. And that young man, that one sentence, I can't keep focusing on my past. And he engaged it wasn't like a little micro scratch. It was a macro movement. Turned around, looked behind him. There's his body. Okay. There's his posture. We just call it posture. Keep it simple. His imagination. What did he see? He's on the couch all alone. How was he feeling? Angry, sad. And then where was his breath? Trapped in his chest, because he's in a stress state. That's negations. Those are the keywords. Soft talk. Soft talk keywords: guess, might, maybe, could, kinda, sorta, seems, think, I might have already said that, hopefully, possibly, probably. If I repeated any of those, forgive me. So sentences like, I might be drinking too much coffee, or I probably should be more patient with my wife, or I guess I could spend more time with the kids, or it seems like I'm self-sabotaging myself. Those sentences, it's fun and funny, and when you scratch the surface, it gets hardcore quick. They keep and most people, you take out the seams, and then maybe like, yeah, I'm totally doing that. That's how most people respond. It keeps these things we know we're doing just at finger's length and out of the reach of having to make a decision about it. Because once we go, I need to spend more time with the kids. I need to listen to my husband more. I need to be more patient with my wife. I need to dial in my spending. I need to drink less coffee. I need to do less this. Now we have to make a decision and change something. So it's this way of, and I mean, it sounds fun until it doesn't, and it doesn't quick, because someone I've seen soft talk destroy people. It turns them into, eventually they come to identify themselves as indecisive, because they are indecisive. And then someone who, I don't really take any risks, or, I don't handle change very well, because you're not used to it. Okay. Yeah. Navigating change, that's a skill set that we get better at by doing that. And so when we start taking out those soft talk keywords, we get more solid. Okay. We sound different. If you're in sales, this is a must. You want to wreck a sales presentation, put a bunch of soft talk and negations in there. Don't worry, you're not going to have any problems with this product. We never have anyone return it, and it's probably going to work fine for you. What? As opposed, there's other ways you could say it. I'll just go ahead and do it. This is a fantastic product. Everyone keeps them and enjoys them. You're going to love it. Two completely different universes. And then there's the venom projections. So a quick story about how I got into this. I went and watched an emotional detox workshop in 2003. I was in a very bad state. My fight career stopped from a knee injury, and I was just very, very. I wasn't laughing at all or really smiling. I didn't laugh for a year. It's a weird place. And I went to this workshop, and this guy, Barry Musgrave, who turned into my first mentor in this work, he talked about words, he talked about stories, he talked about identities and some other stuff. And then he asked, is there anybody stuck on a story? This woman raised her hand. And it was a bad breakup. It was a stinger for sure. Her and her friends got a house down at the beach for beach week. Her and her boyfriend's friends got the house next door. Add alcohol, hit push play, out comes drama. So he hooked up with her best friend in front of everybody the night before, and then dumps her in front of everybody the next night. Everybody say ouch on 3. 4 years later, she's still pissed. Of course. Mm-hmm. And he had her tell the story 3 times. First time through, she's angry. Okay. Crying. Second time through, he starts to change some of the words, loosen the thing up. And then the third time through, he stopped her at the key sentence, which was a projection. Because this was holding the whole thing together. He did that to me. He did that to me. He had her say it again. He did that to me. And he said, okay, cool. Take the he out or take the me out and put in himself. He did that to me turned into he did that to himself. And the thing went, one thing went out of focus, the other thing came in the focus. And she was like, yeah, actually, he lost a lot of friends about that. And he caught a ton of shit. And it made his actions in an instant about him instead of about her. Went from personal to impersonal. And she took this huge sigh of relief of what pressure. And at that moment, I was like, all right, I get it. That's not my story, but that's my story. And so your projection keywords, he, she, they, people's first names. Let's get mom and dad in there. Mom treats me like a child. Because look, you got the mom and you got the me. That's going to create the victim and the villain dynamic. Okay. Mom's in there. She's doing something to you, and you got to wait for her to change till you can feel better. Don't hold your breath. Right? We're talking about mom, everybody. Come on. And so take out the mom and put in I. Well, that tastes a little different. I treat me as a child. Whew. They never let me get a word in, or she's always degrading me. Great. First thing, I mean, none of this is rocket science, folks. Write the damn sentences that bother you the most down. First things first. She always degrades me. Right. Cool. Always or sometimes? Well, I mean, it feels like always. So you mean sometimes? Fine. Yeah. And then they relent a little bit. Sometimes. She sometimes degrades me. All right. Take out the she, put in I. Once again, you and you. I mean, who talks more shit to us than us? Like,
exactly.
Really? Come on. Is it even a conversation? Is it even a ballpark conversation? Like, is there even a close second?
No.
We'll just dump on the projection, the negations, worst case scenario, soft talk, indecision, and projections. That's the venom. If you learn what to do with those words, so you start talking about more what you can do and what will happen and what you do want, and you start using affirmation language, affirmative words, and you start plucking out the soft talk, and you take out the mom and the dad and the they and the she and the he and the Dave and the who and the them, and you put in I, go like this. You're not going to like it. You are not going to like it at first. And it's also the exit. It's going to sting. It's going to piss you off more than anything. And you start becoming a more powerful storyteller, because this whole thing comes down to stories. The story we tell ourselves. That's the quick and dirty about the language patterns. And I will finish it off with one thing. So we reshot our original course for Procabulary, because before conflict language, those were the three pillars: negation, soft talk, projections. Before conflict language was called conflict language, it was called victim mentality language, which was too strong of a place to start the conversation. Oh, I'm no victim. You talk about conflict though, and they're like, yeah, fine. I got a little conflict going on at work, and shit, you should see my home life. And the definition stands. It's accurate by the definition of the victim mentality. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. I took a little out of the middle. That's the verbatim definition of the victim mentality. That second sentence is right between the eyes, right where it belongs. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process. Depends, has to have, and habitual accurately implies duration and addiction. Doesn't happen overnight. And play that. It's something. There is something seductive about it. What's more seductive than our own voice in our own head whispering things to us? You know, it's the easiest thing in the world to believe. And then if you want to really drop nukes, find a bunch of friends that are going to agree with you, that are going to commiserate with you. Commiserate. And then it's like, yeah, he did this and he did that. And oh my God, men are dogs. They only want one thing. And then the other one chimes in, oh, they don't ever deserve us. And then the thing goes up in mushroom clouds. Guys do it too. It's one of the reasons you want to get out of gossip circles. That ain't easy.
No, one of my thoughts, Mark, is, if you turn on
big time rant and ramble, please interrupt, say something, anything, please.
When we're surrounded by drama, I think as a society, when you turn on the TV, it's all about fear, drama. It's about when you open the newspaper, it starts scrolling through your feed on Facebook. That's what sells. And that's why I think people are so comfortable and drawn to it. We need to take ourselves out of that situation and exclude it, or at least eliminate it as much as we can from our lives, and not be an active participant in it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's this, sometimes that's not easy, folks. You know, I read a book from a couple things come to mind. I read a book from a South American shaman, and he spent 2 chapters talking about how dangerous gossip is. Okay.
Wow.
He called it the highest form of black magic.
Mm.
Whether it is or not, I don't know. And I found that really spooky.
Yeah.
Okay. And the what was the other thing I was going to say? Something about, oh yeah, right. This is a relevant side note, because the news and marketing have, and now we've done it too. We're active participants in this. The English language is blown out.
Mhm.
It's blown out. You might be able to attest to this, Andrew. My father and my stepmother, they both said, we would rarely in the newspaper see the word incredible.
Mm.
We would rarely, like, it was rare, or the word awesome, or the word, or these words that are just, I mean, how often do people post about their mind being blown about a blueberry muffin? A mind-blowing latte. Really? Did it blow your mind, or did it just taste good? Like, we've lost the ability. We've come to the outer edges of our language. And so, disconnecting from, especially the bad news, because let's just call it's not the news, it's the bad news. People like, I watch it. No, you watch the bad news and you like it. Okay. We get addicted to it. At least my dad, he's a hillbilly. He goes, I get up, I watch the news, I piss myself off, and then I go to work. At least he's taking responsibility for it,
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. I was like, you know what, Dad? Right on, man.
He possesses the awareness.
Yeah, he totally does, man. And that's where this whole thing starts. Like, nothing that we ever talk about with Enlifted it's not rocket science. I've said that 1,000 times. I'll say it a million more. It's all about education. So I have a degree in education. I came up in the public school system, so I can take a dump on it. I didn't have one course, class, or conversation about how my language influences my imagination for better and for worse, or my feelings and emotions for better and worse, where I use my words to stay focused on the good stuff, stay focused on the things that are important, keep the drama low, be at least okay to collaborate with, okay, be a team player, use my language to breathe well. And most people don't either. So it's this lack of awareness, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our problems, when we look at most people, it's these big, massive things, and the answer is equally as big and massive. No. I can prove that point quite quickly with one of these and a piece of paper and somebody who wants to get a little bit better, even just a little bit better, which is a decent segue into the next part, where we talk about the Enlifted Coaching and the main principles of it.
This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by 5 Mountain Coaching, licensed Unbeatable Mind Coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting-edge development, designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the Big 4 skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom-created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit 5mountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1-hour Unbeatable Mind Coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today.
What does a session look like with a client? I mean, I imagine some people would go right to, it's someone going to be looking at me, picking apart every word I say and every motion I have.
We're not nerds like that. We're not those kind of coaches. I'll give us some credit. We're cooler than that. Yeah. So what does a session look like? There's a lot of writing involved. So I've been doing this work. I turned 15 as a coach on January 17th, 2022. Okay. The first 7 years, I refused to do any virtual sessions. It was all in person. The last 7, almost 8, have almost all been virtual, and all of the virtual have been off of Google Docs. So what does that mean? I'm about to tell you. You can do this on paper. You can do this off of a Google Doc. So for all you coaches out there, when you're working with your clients, okay, what are you doing? One way to describe what you're doing is you're changing their stories. If they come in with the exact same stories about the exact same things that they walked in with, what have you done for them? All right. So a good way to curate their stories is to get on a Google Doc. So we do this. I do this with my one-on-one clients. I do this with all of this is foundational Enlifted coaching process. Everybody gets a Google Doc. I put the intake questions in, which gives it's a nice start that starts light and then gets heavier as they go. Okay. And let's say Andrew and I were doing a session next week. It was next Wednesday. So I send him the Google Doc. He fills the questions out prior to the session, which is important for a couple of reasons. It gets the ball rolling on his end, and I can go on there before our Wednesday at 2 p.m., read what he wrote and take some show notes. So we get on the Zoom call and hit the ground running. Okay. And so we get on the Zoom call, I hit share screen, and that Google Docs right there, we're now literally on the same page at the same time, staring at the same configuration of words. Okay. That's important. This is tough work for even skilled coaches or therapists, in my personal and professional opinion. Working with someone on a dialogue back and forth level, so talking things out in context to having the stories written out on paper or digital paper. Most people never, and why would they? I totally understand. Do not write out the stories of ouch and pain and sting and woe. Okay. They keep them in here and keep them to themselves. Okay. A story kept inside, it's hard to navigate, very hard to navigate for a person. And compared to having the story written out, it's hard to navigate for a coach as well. So, and when a story is kept in the head, it's seemingly infinite. Where does it start? Where does it stop? There's the worst part. Ouch, flinch, rinse, wash, repeat. That's going to happen again. Yeah. So what we do, first things first, is to externalize the story and write it out in a very certain specific way. As in, there's 4 steps to this. This is known as the Enlifted method. And there's just 4 steps. Step 1, title a specific memory and write it out in conversational English in detail. Okay. 3 sentences about the worst thing that ever happened in someone's life. That's not it. You want the content. Okay. The devil really is in the details. First things first, title it, get the title out like a title to a movie, and then write it out. So here's an example I'll give. Let's say there was you're working with a man and he's got self-worth issues, and he's had the same relationship with 3 different women, and the same feelings come up, and he's tired of it. And you get into some of these stories, and the feeling because guess what? Get your clients talking about their stuff. They're going to create the feels. The feels are clues. Okay. And very simple questions that I've been using the whole time. What are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? 10's high, 1's low. What number is it? Because that right there, that's going to, it's an 8 and it's in my chest, and it's anger, and there's some sadness in there too. Now they're dialed into it on their side of the street. And on mine, I know what's going on over there emotion wise. And the emotional patterning in our adult life those are, like I said, they're feelings, they're clues. And most of that stuff gets set up in our childhood. And so you ask them, when was the first time you felt that? It's like, and 50% of the time, folks, I'm not kidding when I say this. You go playing around in someone's stories, or not playing around, you go navigating, use this technique, and be very aware that in a short amount of time, you can go from talking about someone's feelings. You ask them these questions. When was the first time you felt that? What does that remind you of? Half of the time, you're going to send them right back into a very powerful memory. You need to be prepared for that, and you know how you do that? You breathe low and slow. We're going to talk about that later, because the last thing you want to do with your clients is trauma bond. And amateur coaches, they breathe in their chest. The pros breathe in their stomach. I'll tell you why soon. So you ask him, when was the first time you felt that? And he goes, well, that reminds me when my parents sat me down and told me they were getting a divorce. Perfect. Title it like a title to a movie, sat down in the kitchen. That's the title. And then you write it out. Have them write it out in detail. That's step one. That right there is a big deal, because most people don't write anything down. They're underwritten. And I'm not talking about insurance. And then when they do write it down, they've got distance now from their eyeballs to the paper. It's now out of here, the dirt, the murky depths, and it's right there. And you and your client can agree on the same thing. There's the beginning word, there's the end word, and there's all the words in the middle. There's no conjecture about it now. You're staring at the same configuration of words. It's the difference between doing it like this and doing it talking back and forth. As far as a coach is, it's not even coaching made simple. It's coaching. Trust me, it's a gift from the gods. And then, okay, so once you've got it written down, step 2, read it. Read it. Start to finish. And do your very best to only ask questions in this process. So we're involved, we're very committed to the hows instead of the whys. There's a big difference between how am I talking myself out of opportunity and then why am I talking myself out of opportunity? Or there's a big difference between why do I feel like I'm not good enough versus how do I feel like I'm not good enough? Okay, if you get into the how, you're in the mechanics of storytelling. You do not want to be, this is my personal professional opinion, take it or leave it, I really don't care. You do not want to be a 1-800 hotline, got all the answers coaches. Okay. That's not fun. I used to do that. Okay. You want to be a great questions coach. Answers push, questions pull. You want to pull this stuff out of them, as opposed to having all the answers, being the almighty wise coach. Okay. Because guess what? What if they don't agree with you? What if they don't agree with you about something? If you're an all the right answers coach, your clients have to agree with you in order for you to maintain the off balance power dynamic. Okay. It puts you at odds with your client from the start. If you're a great questions coach and you know how to pull these stories out of people, your clients are going to change their mind on their own at their own rate, and it's going to stick 1,000 times better. Okay. Any woman knows this. Get a guy to think it's his own idea and it's on like Voltron. So seriously. So first things first, title a specific memory, write it out. Then read the story. Read what you wrote. Step 2. Step 3, read it at 70% of their normal rate of speech. Why would we do that? When someone slows down their rate of speech, the breathing begins to descend. As the breath descends, if y'all are listening on audio, you're missing out. Breath trapped in the chest, picture is in your face. It's just right there. Wherever you go, there it goes. As the breath descends, again, mechanics of storytelling, the breath descends, the picture moves out. as the picture moves out, it goes from like, I'm in the picture, I'm in the story. It's personal. Okay. It's objective. As this happens, then I change my own mind. I go from the participant to the observer, from personal to impersonal. And the breath is a major component. Good luck changing your client's mind while their breath is trapped in their chest. Have fun. You're going to get the or the. They're gonna nod. It's not happening inside. It's only on the outside. Social niceties. And then step 4. At some point in time, folks, I've seen it happen at the thought of writing out the story. I've seen it happen writing out the story. I've seen it happen step 2, telling the story. I've seen they're fine when they write it. They're fine when they say it the first time. But when they slow down that rate of speech and that breath descends and it touches those emotions, breath goes down, feels comes up. I've seen it at step 4, where I'm about to break that down. At some point in time, your clients are going to have an emotional reaction. Okay. Be prepared for that and let it happen. It's okay. People are tough. They can cry about some stuff. You're not going to break them. Okay. We're designed to have intense emotions and feelings. All right. Again, what you don't want to do is trauma bond with them. I'm going to bring that up after step 4. Breathe low and slow. Step 4 is where you have your client take a big breath in and a big breath out at each period. And if I'm working on a Google Doc, let's say there's 2 paragraphs, 4 sentences each. Okay. I will separate each sentence and put the word breathe in there. And so something that went, because think about it, like kept in your head, it's tiny and compressed. Get it out, read it slow, and then open it up. Like that, it literally airs it out. It's spooky to watch. And so the story, step 4, you want to think pattern interruption. You want to think rhythm. Most people tell their stories and it's just this low amount of breathing going on, and you can ride roughshod over a story quite quick. This is a little intense and fine. I was raped when I was 17 and I'm fine. Really? I've seen this. And I'm like, okay, good. I always say good. All right answers as far as, or yes and coaching. Everything that your client says is correct. Okay. Anything that comes up, nod at it, take it in a certain direction. It's the same thing as improv. The premise of improv is yes and. Okay. If you start going yes, but, it wrecks the thing and the whole thing falls apart. Very similar with coaching. You hand that person that just steamrolled right over that story to avoid the pain. I get it. And you have them write it out. It's a completely different story. So step 4, it could look like this. So, sat down in the kitchen, the story of the guy in the divorce. My parents took my sister and myself into the kitchen when I was 7. My mom was crying and wouldn't look at us. My father was stoic as usual. My dad told us they're getting a divorce. He said he was moving out. And we were going to stay at the house with mom. He said this had nothing to do with us. And that they loved us very much. My little sister was under the table sobbing. And I thought to myself, somehow this is my fault. That's going to get the stuck out at some point in time. It's going to take out, get out the emotions, the feelings, which is the glue that cements the meaning that we assign to the story in, because it's not the story that gets us, it's the meaning that we assign to the story. So all that pain and sadness and fear, that's what glues the somehow this is my fault, everything's my fault. If I was a better kid, it wouldn't have happened. Drum roll, I'm not good enough. That's what glue cements that stuff into position. And then we go out, grow up and go out, and then history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. You know, that kind of thing. That right there, folks, I've used that method, the Enlifted method, the 4-step process, as it's also affectionately known, on everything from procrastination to war crimes and torture and a variety of gnarly stuff in between. And it works because it works on the mechanics of storytelling. Get the story out and air the thing out. All right. I do not have to be Einstein to coach people through processes like this. All right. You do not have to be the all-wise, all-knowing sage of a coach. Okay. Those aren't fun people. They're not fun coaches. It's not fun to coach that way. It's much more fun to facilitate transformation and get the fuck out of the way. Right.
Amen.
Amen. So the last part about this, and then we can go in another direction, is the low and slow breathing. Okay. So at some point in time, you're going to come across some stories that are of an intense emotional nature. All right. Stuff that, you know, you can't believe this person is telling you that, or I'd rather believe this isn't true. This person didn't experience that. Heavy stuff. And sometimes it can happen quite quick. That's why you want to keep your breathing low and slow down in your abdomen. When you're breathing well, you're going to have perspective. You're going to have distance. You're going to maintain a good rhythm. You're going to maintain your creative faculties. Coaching is a creative act. You've got to get it. You don't know what's in there. So you got to get in there and you got to make decisions, right? And you make better decisions when you're breathing well. And if your client, because they're going to, with this, the system is designed specifically to go in and get them out of that stuff, they're going to have an emotional reaction. If you're not prepared for that, so there's two things you want to do. You want to breathe low and slow and do a good job cleaning out your own story. If you've got a whole bunch of stories in your background that are in there and sitting there doing what they're doing, you're going to be more reactive to other people's pain and likely to connect in a negative way to it. All right. You want to have done a good part of work on your own personal story. Clean the house. It's good. And so when you go into these places with your clients, instead of, they lock up and their breath is here, and then you lock up and your breath is here, and then you're bonding with them in a very weird way. And to make an important note there, I used to shut off my emotions in sessions. I would not allow myself to emote at all. I thought that was the right thing to do. When I wised up to that, I let myself have any emotion and feeling in a session, and I keep my breath low and slow. So that it's natural, it's fluid. I am a human being. Part of that is the coaches are human. And, you keep your breath low and slow and let yourself have your emotions and feelings. That's one way of you unraveling stuff on your end too. Do you need to be perfect with your own story before you go coach? No, you're not. No, you don't. And no, you're not. Like that's not the point. Go in there and clean up the big stuff, and then be smooth when whatever presents itself. That was my second rant. questions, comments?
If you've been listening to our podcast or following us on socials, it's probably no surprise to you that I've been dealing with back issues for many years. And I want to take a moment just to tell you about something that I found that's helped me with my flexibility and durability and mobility. And that's called Kokoro yoga, somatic warrior training. It's not just yoga. It also includes Tai Chi, Qigong, visualization, meditation, and breathwork practices such as Fit Warrior, Fighting Warrior, which incorporates functional fitness and some martial arts movements. And it's been just a really great way for me to maintain some flexibility and durability as I move through our challenges when we go and do Spartan races and climb mountains. So if this sounds like it's something that could help you out, check it out. The link's in the show notes. Wow, so much to unpack, as usual, right? That's why we appreciate you so much. I think what comes up for me is, as a coach, not turning off my emotions, right? That's so important. Like you said, we're human beings, and we as coaches still experience the same difficulties in life, still can experience the same difficulties. Emotions come up for us. And having tools in your toolbox to be able to address those emotions and deal with them is vitally important, especially when you're on a coach trying to bring out the best in your clients and walk them down a path of success on the journey to what they want to become. So yeah, not turning off your emotions is super important. And the breath, I mean, almost every single person we've had on our show for this season has talked about breath, right? So my ask for folks listening to this is pay attention to your breathing. It is so important to our success, remaining calm, remaining focused, remaining balanced. So thank you for sharing. The question that comes up for me, Mark, is, who's drawn to Enlifted Coaching? Who would benefit? I guess it's a two-part, from this type of coaching.
Most of our coaches, this is also due to where we got our first large amount of attention from. It was when we went on Barbell Shrugged back in the day. So
major podcast.
It was people in the fitness industry. So a good percentage of our coaches have come from the fitness industry. And out of those, a lot of them say the same thing. I know that I can go deeper with my clients. I just don't know how. Okay. Or I know there's something else here. I'm tired of teaching back squats and macros. I want to facilitate deeper transformation. Cool. That's us. And some people come in because the language game is attractive to them. They're like, that makes sense to me, and I want to know more. Some people come in because they want, usually it's a couple of answers. They come in because they want the tools, and they also want to do a good piece of work on themselves. Yeah. The certifications are equal parts personal and professional development. I call it's funny. A number of the students have accurately and independently described level 1 certification as brutal and hilarious. And they're right, and they got the order right. The first month of level 1 certification is tough action. We're cleaning house. So we use the same coaching tools that people are learning to do on everybody in there. And the gloves are not off because the gloves were never on. We're going into the most stuck parts of people's stories and getting them unstuck. And there's usually, there will be tears, not necessarily everyone's, and there will be. We do 10 people per cert. I teach all the courses. They're 10 weeks long, and people graduate with the skill set. So if you want to be a world-class coach, here's what you need. You need 3 things. You need the skill set. You need the identity to take that skill set out into the world, into the arena, and compete. Okay. Also known as use it, also known as apply it and get paid for it. And then you need a community. Okay. If you got the skills, you got the identity, and you got the community, then the cards are majorly stacked in your favor. And we deliver all three of those things. You get platinum level coaching skills, tools, communication schools, tools. As long as you're talking and thinking, and they apply just as much for you as anyone you're going to coach. You get them for you and your clients for life. We build up we shrink down that victim mentality, that part of you that is bought into your failure. We all have it. We're all a mixed bag. Okay. We shrink this one down. We expand this one, give you the tools. And then, we got 200 really cool people in our certification or our community. And the certification itself is quite the filter. If you go through that and you put up with me for 10 weeks, yelling, okay, asking questions, and and just doing the whole thing, like, come on in, you're cool enough. You're good.
Nice.
When's the next certification? I'm in.
January 11th. Y'all are both invited.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And on top of that, they are fun because we do the brutal, and then on their own and by design, things get fun and funnier. So we have an overarching quote for level 1 certification. If you laugh at the devil, he'll run away. And, my business partner and I are both serious and sincere about this work. And we also like to have a good time. And that ability to laugh at the devil, that ability to laugh at where we used to be stuck. And that might sound crazy for some of you that are stuck. Trust me, it happens. Okay. That turns you into a very valuable, cool kind of coach. You're the breath of fresh air coach. Yeah. You can take them into deep waters. Okay. And you're also that lighthearted, fresh breeze. And we know how to do that. We know how to create those kind of coaches because we do.
When you shine a bright light, a focused bright light on the dark spaces, those dark spaces usually aren't so scary in the light, right? So, and that's what we're doing here, right? And you can't do this work if your intent is to set out and to be a coach. You can't do this work without actually benefiting significantly for yourself and cleaning up your areas as well. So that is just phenomenal. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's, this work is not sustainable. It's regenerative. Every time I sit down and coach somebody on their stories, I get better somehow with mine, whether it's a reminder about this language pattern or a reminder of where I was or something that highlights something for me that I can pick up my pen and work on. Or maybe just gets me in touch with a feeling that I haven't felt in a while, and I breathe with it. And it irons out a lot of wrinkles. A lot of times very, very frequently, people get off of the coaching calls with this system. And I mean it is regenerative. You got more energy than you went in there with.
For someone who's interested in finding an Enlifted coach, where do they go?
That's a good question. Right now, we have our new website. It's another thing I'm excited about. The due date is December 1st. Whether we get that then or 2 weeks from now, there'll be a directory of coaches on there. Enlifted.me. That's also a place where you can go and learn more. And if you want to book in for a discovery call with one of our team members, Enlifted.me. Follow me on Instagram. That's a free school. It's a 70%, 75% language stuff, 25% comedy.
Yeah, I encourage people to follow you on Instagram.
It's usually good
fun.
for a laugh.
Yeah, there's an edge to it. There's some
No doubt. It's all
You
good.
go through the feed and you're laughing 1 second, the next second, oh, huh. Let me think about that.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yep. Awesome. Mark, thanks so much for taking the time to bring us up to speed on the Enlifted program. We appreciate you. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
That was comprehensive. When
I think so.
We got on and we decided the direction. I was like, okay, we'll do this, this, and this. And if we do that, that, and that, we're good to go. And we did that, and that.
Super. Again, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we enjoy following you on the socials, Instagram. If there's anything we can do to help support you, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. This is plenty good.
Friends, if you found the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It helps others find our podcast.
If you screenshot your review and tag us on Instagram, we'll send you a classic Fierce Planet Adventures sticker. For your water bottle, cooler, car, send us a direct message with your mailing address on Instagram, and we'll send you that sticker right out.
Thanks for joining us, and live fiercely.